SOP 222. Today we're talking about keeping your WordPress safe.
It's the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. Here's Dave Jackson.
All right, welcome to the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. I am your host, Dave Jackson, your personal podcast coach. Thanking you so much for tuning in. This is where we talk about all things podcasting. And if you'd like to reach me, I would love to hear from you. I really would. My email is dave@schoolofpodcasting.com. You can call in your comments, courtesy of podcastvoicemail.com. It's 888-563-3228. And you can leave a comment out at our website, just like Sally and Lynn did. Our website is schoolofpodcasting.com. And let's just get to the feedback. Lynn wrote in. Lynn's website is effectivechildrenministry.org. She says, "Hi, Dave. Thanks for your advice. I bought Artisteer. Now, Artisteer is this program that allows you to make custom WordPress themes. If you're interested in it, just go to wordpresstool.com. Let me make sure that's the right one. Great show prep, Dave. wordpresstool.com. Yes, that'll take you right there. Says, I'm using the most recent version of Artisteer, and I have no problem so far with WordPress 3.0, and everything seems to be working okay. So maybe you're right if it's the older version that doesn't cope. Lynn, I'll talk about that in a second. She said the link to your website in the WordPress dashboard is gone. It's actually there in the top left-hand side and takes you directly to your homepage. You know what's really weird about that, Lynn? You're absolutely correct. And I think when I recorded this, I just upgraded a old version of WordPress to WordPress 3.0, and I swear it wasn't there. And then when I logged out and logged back in, it was there. And I'm like, oh, I just recorded that it wasn't there, and it is. And I said, you know what? We'll leave it. So thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, that feature didn't go away. And she says, I'd like to add how pleased I am that you encouraged me, A, to get a face for the podcast, that is a website or a blog. My friend and I are not recording yet, but building a wee community in our niche ready for when we finally get the podcast going. Hey, nothing wrong with that. When you get that community going, you can get a better idea maybe of what people want to hear in a podcast. I'm a member of WP. It's called Wishlist Insider. It's a community, a WordPress community. I'll put a link to that out in the show notes. And they're thinking of doing a podcast just for their members. And so that was the first thing they said. How often would you want it? How long is it? What would you want to hear in it? Might as well let them tell you about it, right? B, thank you for telling me to buy Artisteer. It is brilliant, and I have built various sites for WordPress for myself and for others using the WYSIWYG program. Now, and thank you. I'm glad you like it. I love Artisteer. In fact, I'll go to that in a second. But the thing I was talking about is there's this new feature in WordPress 3.0. And I'll try to explain to you how most people aren't going to use this feature. I have the schoolofpodcasting.com, obviously a membership site. What I could do is I could have one set of menus for the public. And maybe this would be, log in, our features, maybe a link to the tour, things like that. And then another set of menus for the members that would say, okay, click here for the tutorials, click here for the resources. Here's another link to log in, blah, blah, blah. That feature allows you to build menu systems and makes you be able to say, okay, show this menu system when people click on this or that. It's very, very cool. That feature of building menu systems, because that's all based on your theme, that doesn't exist in Artisteer yet. I did contact them. They are aware of it, and they're working on updating it. And being that the Artisteer also helps you make things for Drupal and what's the other one? Joomla and Blogger. It helps you build all sorts of themes. So it'll just be a matter of time until they're ready for that. So, yeah, I do like it. And again, if you just go to wordpresstool.com, you can see what I'm talking about. They do have a trial you can download. And again, Lynn is at effectivechildrenministry.org. The other comment I got was from Sally Getch from the Podcast Asylum. She says, I was talking about how the multi-site feature in WordPress 3.0 isn't very easy to turn on. And she says, well, it's resource intensive. It's not really a good idea to use it on shared hosting. If your host didn't allow WordPress multiple user on its shared server, they're not likely to be keen on the multi-site. It's not really something that inexperienced WordPress users should mess with, which may be why there's no way to activate it from the dashboard. I agree. As for the header image, because I was talking about how when you upload a header in the new 2010 theme, it still shows the name. She says you can comment that out, and that's true. I thought about that after I recorded it as well. There are tutorials about updating your themes to incorporate the WordPress 3.0 features, and she put a link. I'll copy that link from her comment and put it into the show notes. If you're willing to spend a little time in the code, those instructions should work just well for a theme you created in Artisteer, as for many others. And again, that's from Sally at podcastasylum.com. Very cool site, very cool person. I've known Sally since the very first WordPress Expo. Speaking of that, if you want to go to the expo this year out in Vegas, go to schoolofpodcasting.com/expo. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback. All right, I'm going to try to do this quick. In upgrading my WordPress for the School of Podcasting, you might have seen it. There was a day where the School of Podcasting had an error message for about 23 hours. And I was trying to reinstall backups and things like that. And when I upgraded 3.0, apparently I didn't turn off all my plugins, and it really messed things up bad. Now, the good news is I use HostGator for my hosting. Love them, love them, love them. They came to my rescue, but to make a long story short, even they reinstalling a backup from whenever couldn't get things to really click. And so this is one of the other reasons I love about WordPress is there's a great community, and the community, somebody else had the exact same problem I had, and I wanted to kick myself because I swear I did like a show 97 or something like that said if you're ever troubleshooting your WordPress, go in and turn off your plugins. And basically, I couldn't log in, so I couldn't turn off my plugins. But the minute I logged in via FTP, in other words, I went into the back door of WordPress and deleted my plugins, it worked just fine. And then I just went in and reinstalled them. And I realize that's kind of geeky. If you're like, FTP, what? Just sign up for the School of Podcasting. It'll all make sense. But I talked about backing up your database with WP-DB-backup. It's a great plugin, backups your WordPress. But what about your themes? What about your images, things like that? Well, I found this great plugin. Now, it's not free, but it's a one-time fee. It is called Backup Buddy. And I'll have a link to this out in the show notes. It's from the same people that do iThemes, and I just bought their Builder theme. Wow, is that thing powerful. In fact, if you go to davidjackson.org, you can see a video for the Builder plugin, or if you just go to the search and type in Builder, you'll find it. Phenomenal theme. It's almost as cool as Artisteer, because it really lets you control everything about your appearance of the blog. But they're the same people that make Builder make Backup Buddy. Now, much like the backup plugin that was free I talked about, this does back up WordPress, but this also backs up your themes. So if you've done any kind of customization, let's say you're using Thesis or Builder, something like that, you've customized your theme, it backs that up. It also backs up your images. It backs up basically, in a word, everything about your WordPress. And yes, could I go into the control panel and go into my PHP admin? And yeah, but wouldn't it be cool if it was just in WordPress? And wouldn't it be cooler if you could just schedule it to say, look, back up my entire everything A to Z website, my WordPress at least, and stick it over there on that FTP. Let's say I'm on the School of Podcasting. Why don't you back it up onto the weekly Web Tools server? Or we've talked about Amazon S3 in the past on how in the end I didn't like it as a media host, but I would love it as a backup system. It now supports Amazon S3. Very, very cool. Because the thing about a backup, and then I'll get off this topic because we're getting super geeky today. A backup is not a backup until you have your files in two locations. Let me give you an example of what's not a backup. Let's say I have all my images for the School of Podcasting on my C drive on my computer in a folder called Dave. And I make a folder on my C drive called Backup Files. And it's on the C drive. Well, then the C drive goes kaput. I've now lost not one, but two copies of my files. But if I take the backup files and stick them on a flash drive or a CD-ROM or something that is another location, or I put them on Amazon S3, or I stick them on my web server somewhere, then I've got a backup. So if the C drive goes bad, I can say, that's okay, I've got them right here on my CD-ROM. I've got them here on my flash drive. So the cool thing about this plugin, because it's one thing to have a backup, then you've got to be able to get into the back end to restore. That's the opposite. There's backup is taking your files and making a copy of them. The restore function is a verb in this case, is taking your backup files and kind of doing the opposite of a backup. It's taking this one file and turning it back into many, because a backup takes all these files and makes it into one. And so you can restore your files. Well, that's not always super easy, but with this Backup Buddy, it is. What it does, it's very cool. It makes a backup of, again, your entire WordPress into one file. It also makes one other file. And I'm going to call this, just for lack of a better phrase, it's like the key of your car. It's like the key of the backup, because what you do then is you have your backup file and you have what I'm going to call this key file. You upload both those, because what if you go, okay, my WordPress crashed, I can't even log into it anymore. You simply go to where your WordPress installation is, you upload the key file, and you upload your backup. You then navigate via, www.yourwebsite.com/WordPress install /key file name, enter. It hits the key, launches it, and then it then says, oh, look, here's the backup file, and just copies your entire WordPress backup onto your website. It may prompt you for some, hey, what's the name of your database, things like that, but it actually looks at your database and kind of looks for it and will fill that in almost automatically. They have some great tutorials that show you how easy this is, and that's when I went, whoa, that's cool. Because it's one thing to have a backup, but what do you do with it? Okay, my website crashed. Now how do I get it back? This makes it super easy to restore your backup. And I think in my case, this would have saved me, because I had a backup, but I'm like, I couldn't log in to restore it. I was just dead in the water. So if you're looking for, now it's not free. Now, how expensive is it? The personal version is $45. That's for one website. They have a business model that is up to 10 sites for $75, which is probably the one I'm going to get. He said, yeah. And then if you have like unlimited, ungodly amounts of sites, you can get a developer one. So if you're maybe a WordPress developer and you have lots of customers, things like that, that's $150. Anyway, so be safe with your WordPress, because it stinks when people hack into it. And the other thing this does is, because I realize this is turning into a plugin buddy or a backup buddy commercial, it also can email you your backup files. And like I said, it can post them on an FTP, on another website, or on Amazon S3. So you could basically have your whole website saved on another website or on Amazon S3, and then have it email you just the latest updates, because those will be small. It's very, very cool. Very cool plugin. And that's enough of that, but definitely back up your website. And to me, when payday rolls around, this one is being added to the website. All right. Last, I talk about the resources. Here is one I'm going to add. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd give it a 7. So it's just barely going to make it into the resource section at the School of Podcasting. It is called LogoSnap at logosnap.com. It is a online program that allows you to make a logo. So if you're looking for something to make album art, things like that, it's free. That's the only really plus side of this. And you can make some okay logos. That's my official, I think if I had the money, I would go to something like iStock Photo. Be sure to read the small print to make sure you can use it for a logo or whatever, depending on what the scenario is. But if you're on an absolutely have to have it free budget, you might want to check out logosnap.com for your podcast logo creation needs. So that is going to do it for this edition of the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. I realized we didn't talk a lot about podcasting today. We talked a lot about WordPress. And if this is your first time to the show, go back and listen to some of the earlier shows. Feel free to ask me any question you have. You can call in your comments, 563-3228, or click the button out at the website, schoolofpodcasting.com. You can email me, dave@schoolofpodcasting.com, or leave a comment out at the website, just like Lynn and Sally did. And again, you can just go to shownotes.schoolofpodcasting.com. If you're interested in starting a podcast, simply go to schoolofpodcasting.com. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, I still have available seats at morepodcastmoney.com. This is the website where you buy an advanced copy of my book as I write it, More Podcast Money. The book is actually called How I Make Money Podcasting. You can buy the book for $15. It gets you completely grandfathered in to all future updates of the website. Plus, if you comment on all 6 sections of the book, it's about 11,000 words. If you comment on all 6, you get your name, you get your podcast name, and the URL of your podcast in the book, which will end up at Amazon.com. So if that's something you're interested in, if you already have a podcast, you're looking to how to promote it, how to make some money from it, check out morepodcastmoney.com. And like I said, if you're saying, I don't even have a podcast yet, let me help you step by step to get you through at schoolofpodcasting.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again real soon. Until then, class is dismissed.